South LA now. Feel good and live your best life with Bloom Health Club. Here's Gail Guayardo.
Hello, everyone. We are talking to a golf legend today, a woman who came from Australia to the United States back in 1974, where she started trailblazing in a predominantly male sport, as you know. Ladies and gentlemen, Jan Stephenson. Jan, what an honor it is to have you become a member of the Bloom Health Club.
Well, thank you. It's fun to be here. I always love to be with you because we always have a good time.
Yeah, we always have a good time. And I'd like to introduce Brody Waddell, who is the lead producer for BloomTampaBay.com, our digital reporter. He likes to chime in from time to time, but hello. So this is going to be a great conversation because truly, I mean, you have done remarkable things in the world of golf since coming to America.
Well, it really has been pretty much exciting world. I mean, when I first came over here, I didn't know if I even liked America. It was so different. I came straight to Miami where they were having the Super Bowl because that's where the qualifying was. And I kept calling back to my parents saying, this is so strange. Everybody loves football. They're carrying on like crazy. I didn't realize it was football. It was the Super Bowl week. And so, of course, they were over the top. And, I kept saying they just are so wrapped in football. I'm not sure if they like golf that much, but I was wrong. But it was really, the first year I was Rookie of the Year, which is a long time ago. It's hard to believe in 1974. And then after that, we had a new commissioner that came from the NHL. And he said, hey, we've got to show everybody that this is an incredible, all these new players are here and it's a totally different world. And I want to use you as the spokesperson and have you as the image. And I didn't realize what he meant by that, but it was traveling around, it was doing photos. I did, crazy shots in calendars and in bathtubs of golf balls. And it did get me out there. And then the other thing is that each week we would go to a town and he would make sure that I was seen with, a football player or a baseball player. And I got to meet some pretty incredible people. And of course, they'd let AP know, and we'd be at dinner somewhere, and they'd show up with all the cameras. And I hate to think what it would be like now. It'd be really crazy because it was really crazy back then.
I can imagine social media would have gone. You would have broken social media because you also won so many prestigious tournaments. Talk to me about that, because not only did you bring a female's face to golf, but you really brought the talent.
Well, and my father was a great athlete. He was a cricket player, so I was used to working out and being an athlete. So I worked really hard at my game. In fact, I keep thinking that I would have won more if I hadn't have done so much promotion for the LPGA. But then where would the LPGA be if it wasn't for that? So it was kind of a hard way. Do I concentrate on golf and not help the tour? Well, would the tour have survived? You just don't know. So then I really loved playing and I love competing. I still do. I mean, I play in our senior tour, which we don't have many tournaments. And, I'm 71 now and all these girls are 50 as seniors. They're so young. They bomb it still. And it makes it hard, but I still love to compete.
That is so awesome. That is so awesome. And then along your journey in life, you became a trailblazer in another male-dominated world, and that is the world of fine wines and spirits. And so you make this life pivot. Tell me about that.
Well, I don't know how it really happened because I never drank when I played on tour. And then when I started to get into the senior tour, everybody would be drinking wine. And what happened is we actually started a sellers club. And so all the players, when we'd come play a tournament, we're seniors now, and so we would call ahead and go to a restaurant that people locally told us about, not a chain restaurant. And we'd all bring wine and we'd talk about it. And so we became the Sellers Club, and we'd do that at night. And everyone said, well, Jan won't know anything about it. So I went, I've had enough of that. So when I went back to Australia, I went to sommelier school and then bought a winery in California and had an Australian winemaker. And I went, I'm changing. And so I showed up at the next Sellers Club and everybody's mouth was open because I knew everything about it. And so I went from one extreme to another. And so I got into wine and loved it. But then during COVID, it was really hard for me to get my wine sold because I would go do country clubs and do tastings. And so we couldn't do any of that. So I sold the winery. My winemaker went back to Australia. And then I kind of went, now what do I do? And I had a friend that was building a distillery in Utah. And he goes, hey, Cameron Diaz is going to be part of it, but she doesn't know if she wants it. Will you come to Utah? And I'm like, oh, I don't want to get into this business. It's too hard. I've already done the wine thing. And so my manager and his wife, we all went to Utah, and I fell in love with the place. I fell in love with what they were doing. And believe it or not, they bought the property that was Brigham Young's property, which, was Mormon property.
Right.
And everybody didn't realize, I didn't realize that the Mormons drank when they first moved to Utah.
I didn't know that because they're famous for not drinking, but they did when they first arrived.
Yes. In fact, they sent their distiller to Utah to set up a still. And that property is the one that we bought. So it was only when all of the Mormons came, and he had made such fantastic whiskey, this Hugh Moon, who was the distiller. The whiskey was so good because all of the water that was coming down from the mountains, he had dug into the aquifer, and it was the purest water. And so he was making this whiskey that tasted incredible. And it was only when they were hung over and not coming to church that Brigham Young said, that's it, Mormons aren't drinking anymore.
That'll get you to church.
I know. So that's a great story. So anyway, we fell in love with the place, and all of us invested in it. And then, of course, Cameron Young didn't want to do it. She said, this is too much work. Cameron Diaz, excuse me. And she said, I didn't realize you have to support it. You have to go to tastings. I'm an actress. I'm not going to do it. So they went, hey, would you like to have your own line of alcohol? And I went, well, I don't really drink that much, but can I use, if we're, like I said before, can I use real fruit? I don't want to use artificial flavors if we've got water that's so pure. So they tried it, and it did really well and won all kinds of awards, and that's how I got started.
That is so exciting. And then, a lot of what we're talking about is helping other women along the way. And so now you do that because it is a male-dominated field, and you learned a lot navigating it with your wine business and now your rum business.
Well, yes. And getting distributors is really hard. How to get through, like you said, you're having to maneuver through all of the legal and getting everything. It has to be compliance, and in different states it's different. It's not like in Australia where you have, or anywhere else in the world where it's one compliant. It's like here, 50 different countries. Every one of them has different rules, and so I'm like, okay, we've gone through all that. We know how to do it. So, and we've worked with 2 distilleries, one that I'm part of and own, and one here in Florida, because in Florida everybody wants Florida products, and we have great. We have good water here too. And so I work with a local distillery, and I help now with companies or charities and women that want to have their own line that have no idea how to get started.
That is incredible that you do that. I also want to talk about just your perseverance as a human being. It is how you started your incredible career in golf. It's how you pivoted later in life, and it's how you got through a cancer diagnosis.
Well, it's some of the players I play with on tour, they call me the Energizer Bunny because I keep getting down. Something happens. Like in '87, I was number 1 in the world, and I got hit by a woman that was a drug, and she ran a red light and hit me and broke all my ribs on my left side, and I had head injuries. And they didn't know how I was going to come back, and I came back and won the last 2 tournaments of the year and finished in the top 4 in the world, even with that. So then I overcome that, and then in 1990 I was mugged, and they broke my hand. And I came back, and then I had macular degeneration 3 years ago diagnosed, and I still could compete and win. And I was like, okay, I'm done. And then in December last year, when they said you have stage 3 breast cancer, I'm like, can they just leave me alone for a while? I was like, I keep coming back. And so it was like, you know what, I'm going to do something about this. And so I read everything possible. And you know how great you get too much stuff on the internet. You know what it's like. But it was like, I'm going to do this differently. I'm going to be positive, and I'm going to go totally organic. And we talked about it earlier that I totally believe in having intravenous vitamins. I'm doing that in a big way with vitamin C, and it doesn't affect the chemo and anything else. And so I really feel like when they came back and said after 18 treatments, 0 cancer detected, they're like, we've never seen this. We've never seen that happen. And I don't know whether it was the physical or the mental. You know, it could have been both. You know, the way I believed in the vitamins and the supplements and staying positive. And it's like, oh, I've got too much to do. I'm all the way into this alcohol and distribution, and I can't stop now. And so everybody sees me while I was having chemo, I was out hitting balls every day, and they're like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine.
Good for
I never
you.
got sick. I didn't have any of the, you know, the things that everybody else had. So I guess I got really lucky.
That is unbelievable. And then in addition to being a world-class, world-winning female golfer, winning, again, the most prestigious golf tournaments in the world, then pivoting into the wine and spirits industry, and then, you know, battling and conquering cancer, Jan Stephenson also makes it her personal mission to pay it forward. Tell me about your foundation that is getting so many accolades.
It really is, and I'm really lucky about it because I keep saying all the time, I have an incredible team that helped me with it. I couldn't do it without it because it's a big operation. You know, it's the foundation owns Tarpon Woods Golf Course, and we bought the restaurant as well, so we knew nothing about food. I was like, oh my God, now I've got something else I have to learn, and of course, and I can't even cook. So it really made it hard, you know. So the only good thing is I can take a lot of food home now.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Sweet perk.
Yeah. So, but you know, I had a junior program, and I actually gave that to Curry Webb, another LPGA player, because she was kind of winding down, and we were bringing juniors over from Australia and showing them the ropes, and I wasn't on tour that much, and so she took that over, and then I kept meeting all these military along the way, and I think the best part is when we had the Warrior Games here in town, and the special ops asked me if I would coach them for the golf part. It was the first time golf was ever going to be in the Warrior Games, and so I got started with it, and I just fell in love with these guys, their attitude, and no matter what. And
like your attitude. You share a lot in common, no matter what.
Yeah.
You're going to persevere. So that's how the Jan Stephenson Crossroads Foundation started?
It did. We had started it earlier, and I'd done a few things, but not once we bought the golf course where they could all come and play and practice, and I could teach them. It's totally taken on another world of its own.
And what does it do for them more than just learning how to golf? I know it helps them on so many other levels.
They've found now with all of we have, I'm really close with obviously the Vets Hospital in MacDill, and they were saying that the best thing they can do for them mentally is to get outside on the golf course, because you're not playing, you know, against other people, because every one of their injuries is different. And it's really hard to handicap when you have events for them, because one may have a missing limb, and you know, and how do you get a right limb and a left limb? And there's so many things they've had back, and they don't like to talk about it. So I've had to kind of get with them and say, okay, what are your injuries, so I can help handicap you on the golf course. And they don't like to talk about it. They kind of are very private with that. But I tell you, the most important part I really noticed was the camaraderie they have. If one of them is struggling, they all get together and you know, and like help them through it. And it's really been eye-opening for me. It's been a big education.
That's more, and it must do wonders for them on an emotional and mental level to be out on a golf course, to be actually playing the sport and achieving such great things.
Well, and they love it. You know, I mean, when they asked me if I would put Don on their uniform and walk with him in the opening games, I was like so emotional about it, because I still do. That was pretty incredible for them to ask that, because they don't usually ask if, you know, they're military. And it was really special. But the thing we're doing now is we do a clinic about once a month for them. And if they come back 3 times and really show an interest, then we're providing with a set of golf clubs now, so they can have them and don't have to come to my place to practice.
That's really, really incredible. All right. And you guys are like, what else can Jan do? You were in Dancing with the Stars. Tell me about that.
Well, that was in Australia, and I'm so competitive, and you know, I'm I actually never danced until that time, and I did it because my mother was a professional dancer, and she had she was dancing all the way up until she had a motorcycle accident. And so she always kept wanting me to be a dancer, and my father wanted me to be an athlete. So we chose being an athlete. And so when I had an opportunity, they asked me if I would do it in Australia, and my mother was still alive. And so it was really special for her to be part of it. And, you know, we filmed one as being a golfer, and it was kind of and we did Proud Mary, and we had a bling golf club made, and I had a little golf outfit, and we had to jump around. Then and my partner had to lay down, my dance partner, at the end, and I had to hit a ball off of his out of his mouth, and everybody, they showed later how close I went to hitting him, because I didn't even think, you know, you're dancing around and suddenly you've got to swing, and then they showed it afterwards, and my poor partner was like, oh, you could have taken my nose off.
That's unbelievable. That is so incredible. Brody, let me open up the floor to you. Do you have any questions for Jan?
I do. What do you think like made you so successful at these things? Is it just like your drive? Was that sort of inherent, or did you have to build that over time?
You know, when I was very young, my father was smart enough. I don't even know if he realized what he was doing. I remember when I was like 14, and it was really cold in Australia. It was probably August, and he had taken on, because there wasn't that much money in cricket, he was now working for the government, for the transport department. So he purposely took night shifts so that he could take me to practice before school and after school. So he devoted right from the very beginning, you know, for me to be successful. So I remember one day it was cold, and it was kind of windy and rainy, and I hate the cold. And he came in, and I had told my mom, I'm not going to practice today. I'm going to take the ferry to school, because I lived in downtown Sydney. And my mother was like horrified. And so I heard him telling my dad, and he came in with a hot water bottle, which you guys wouldn't even know, but it's a bottle you fill with hot water and you put it at your feet when you go to sleep, because, you know, we didn't have heating and air conditioning in Australia. We still don't. And so anyway, he said, look, if you get up now when you don't want to, things like that make you a champion. You might win a U.S. Open one day. And I was like, oh, Dad. So yeah, I got up and practiced. And so when I won the Open, they were both there. Oh. And my dad said, I don't suppose you ever remember. And I'm like, are you kidding? That was the carrot forever. Yeah. So that's a long story to tell you that he always had that dangled a carrot that would make me go do something, until it became inherent for me to practice and work. Because everybody always says, and I didn't realize until I got in the Hall of Fame and they were interviewing the players, nobody worked as hard as Jan. Nobody was that dedicated. So I was like, wow, I didn't even realize I was doing it.
I think that's so incredible. And the other thing that I think is a really important message for all women out there, and it's one that I really try to embrace, and I'm not, you know, a golf icon and you know, a world championship, but I think women like myself look up to women like you, because I don't think we need to have an expiration date. I don't think we need to have a shelf life. I think there is so much to be conquered in this world, and why stop? Why stop reaching for new goals and new dreams?
Right, and that's the way I am all the time. I mean, I can't wait to get back out on the golf course and compete. You know, I'm like, I love it. You know, I'm going for the Australian Open next week, but I'm going to just host it, and I just can't wait to get and watch the golf. And I'm actually doing an exhibition for all abilities and for disabled. So it's just to do things like that. But one thing I did want to tell you that I haven't actually announced yet is I just signed with MGM to do a TV series on my life.
Oh, cool, like a biopic?
Yeah, well, it's going to be, they're going to do 12 episodes, but they're going to finish in 1982. And I'm still going, no, there's so much happened from 82. I haven't even won the US Open yet. But they said, well, if it does well, then they can do a second series. And it's like, oh my God, my life hasn't even started in 82.
That's so cool, though, that you say that, like, because again, that's just more inspiration that your life hasn't even started. And you think, here we are knocking on 2024's door, and you're still out there, you know, doing incredible things with your life.
Well, and it really is about energy, and you just have to, you know, kind of really get excited, and then it's easy to get out of bed, you know.
Any other questions for Jan?
So, like, in these different stages, how has your focus changed? Like, obviously, it's not like the same things that you're chasing after, and you kind of like have to adjust to that. Like, how have you gone about that? You know, like maybe when you're young, it's this sort of thing, and you're like so focused on like achieving this, and then over time, like how does that change for you?
Well, the thing is that you do have, I see people that say they have no regrets, so they wouldn't do it differently. I would do things so differently. I mean, I can honestly say that my personal life has definitely hurt because of this, and because I was so disciplined and focused early on. I mean, I think of some of the people that I probably could have, that I dated and went, no, golf's more important. I can't do that, or I can't, because I've got to do this, or I have to win this, and I want to win a U.S. Open, and I can't be non-focused. And I don't know whether in those days that you couldn't do it. Now women can do it all. I feel like you can have a career and have a family. And back then, I see some of the players on tour now that can do it because we have daycare, and we have, they have all of the things that helped them in a gym right there, whereas I used to have to go someplace else to work out, and I didn't have the time personally. And that's probably the only regret I have, because I was too focused. But would I have done what I did? I don't know. I probably wouldn't have. So, I'm not regretting that I don't have a personal life. It's just I just made some really bad decisions on the personal ones. Well, I mean, in retrospect, it's hard to say. I think of my late mom, who I tear up when I talk about, but she was a trailblazer in her industry. She was one of the first women in TV. She went to Northwestern, and we're talking about in the 50s, when it was a big thing for women to even go to college. And I think if, she left such a tremendous footprint in this world. And when I look at it now, and I look at it from the 50,000, foot view from above, I look at it, and it is a tremendous footprint that you are leaving on this earth. Well, that's a nice way to put it, and that makes it feel a lot better. But I'm excited about this new series, so that'll be something fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Jan, it has been nothing short of a privilege and honor. It always is to have you on Bloom, our syndicated show that is headquartered here in Tampa, Florida, and now to have you officially a member of our streaming platform, the Bloom Health Club. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us.
Well, thank you. It's been fun, and you guys have been great.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Until next time.